everyone. I'm cutting up a watermelon while we talk because I gotta multitask. I've got a lot of things I want to get done today, and watermelon is one of them. And talking to you is one of them. So there you are, getting out of debt, taking control of your finances, you've made a budget, you're figuring out where your money goes. But if you want to really get a handle on your spending and your debt, you need to look at the emotional reasons why you're spending. Our emotions are massively tied into our money and our spending. And if you're going to ignore that side of it, you're really not going to be able to get a handle on your spending and get out of debt. You need to know why you're overspending on certain things. You need to know what emotional need is being filled by your spending, because you've got to meet that emotional need some other way if you want to stop overspending and get yourself out of debt. Now, some of the emotional needs that we're fulfilling when we go shopping are fairly obvious. Sometimes if we feel sad, a little bit down, we go shopping to cheer ourselves up. That's pretty typical. It's kind of the same with eating. Sometimes when we're happy and we want to celebrate, we go shopping, we treat ourselves to something because we feel like we deserve it. Well, if you don't have the money to pay for it without putting it on a credit card, you don't really deserve it. Sometimes it's just out of boredom or habit. When I was a teenager, back in the 1980s, it was a very typical outing to meet your girlfriends at the mall and just hang out there and try on clothes and maybe buy something if your mother gave you some money. We didn't have money of our own. It strikes me as weird now that hanging out at a mall, a veritable mecca for conspicuous consumption and consumerism, it's weird that that was an outing. That was like a fun thing for us to do as teenagers. I think some people get in the habit of shopping as a fun outing. I actually can't stand going to malls now. I just absolutely hate it. So at least I'm over that. So if you're bored, you need to find another activity. Not spending money. Clean out your cupboards. Go for a walk. Go for a bike ride. Rent a movie. Read a book. Do yoga. Go dumpster diving. Deep clean your bathroom. There are a lot of things you can do to entertain yourself on a boring afternoon that you're going to feel good about afterwards. You're not going to feel that good about spending money. If you're shopping to cheer yourself up, there are other and better ways to do that. Material items are never really going to fulfill your emotional needs, and they're not going to make you happier. Then you just end up further in debt, and you're still unhappy. It's a better use of your money to find a good therapist and get on some Prozac if you're really depressed. Shopping isn't going to fix that. Some people might overspend out of guilt. I think it's pretty typical for parents to overspend on their kids and spoil them because they feel guilty about not playing with them enough, or because they spend so much time at work, they're not spending enough time with their kids. So somehow you assuage your guilt by buying some new toys, which, you know, in the short run, the kids like. Kids love to get a new toy, but that really doesn't get you off the hook for actually spending time with your children. And in the long run, those material possessions, they don't make up for lack of parenting. And I know, I've done this. I've done this. I've bought things for my kids out of guilt, because I feel bad that I don't spend enough time playing with them, and, you know, especially when I have to work late a lot. You know, if you're shopping for an emotional need, you are getting something out of it. And you need to know what that is, because It's a feeling you need fulfilled some other way. You're allowed to have your emotional needs. They're just not going to get met through shopping and spending money. They're just not. So I think of myself at IKEA. I love IKEA. I love just wandering through IKEA and looking at all the little room designs all set up. And I really think to myself when I'm at IKEA, if I bought this room of furniture and brought it home, that would solve all my problems. That would make me happy. That would fix my life. I just know it would. But I can't afford to do that. So then I started thinking, okay, what is it about this setup, this set of furniture that appeals to me so much that I think my life would be fixed if I actually bought all this furniture and redecorated my home just like this? And I realized it's because in the IKEA rooms, there's no clutter, there's no mess. Everything is tidy and organized, but they put out just enough books and knickknacks to make it look cozy and lived in. And it's the feeling of having a pleasant room to look at and peaceful and calm and lack of clutter. That's what appeals to me. So I don't need to buy new furniture to have that good feeling. I need to go home and clean up the mess and get rid of the clutter. Get rid of it. That's a whole other video in itself, dealing with clutter. That's a whole channel in itself, dealing with clutter. Your clutter and your problems with spending and consumerism are all tied together. It's all tied up together in the emotions we have connected to our stuff, physical stuff. You know, the thing about humans is we can get used to any situation pretty quickly. We get acclimated pretty quickly. The point is, even when you get something and you think it's fulfilled your emotional need, it hasn't, and you get used to having that thing right away. So you're still paying for it. You're still paying for it for months and years sometimes if you put it on a credit card, but the pleasure you got out of it is long gone. You liked it at first, and then you got used to it, and then you don't even notice it. To have a successful handle on your finances and to be able to get out of debt and save money and stop spending so much, of course the first step is figuring out your budget and looking at where am I spending, where is my money going. But the next step you have to do is figure out why. How do I feel when I go shopping? How do I feel when I make a purchase? How do I feel when I bring it home? How do I feel a week later? I mean, obviously, there's some shopping you have to do. There are necessities that have to be purchased. But I'm talking about luxury items that you don't necessarily have the money for right now. I have a friend who used to overspend like crazy on books. You have to think that's a pretty healthy addiction in a way. I mean, books are great. You can't argue with reading books. Books are awesome. But books can be really expensive. You can really drop a load of cash pretty quickly at Barnes & Noble if you're just picking up all the books and magazines that you think you want to read soon. And she was buying so many books that she would actually buy the same book 2 or 3 times, forgetting she'd already bought it, because she'd see it again and think, oh yeah, I want to read that. She was telling me one time how she really needed to stop spending so much money at the bookstores. And I said, you know, there's this place you can go where you can take the book home for free and you can read it and then you bring it back and you don't have to pay for it. And it was so funny. She was truly amazed. She was like, oh my God, where? Like she thought it was some really cool Barnes & Noble where you could just read the books and return them. And I said, the local public library? Like, you don't have to pay money for these books. You don't have to own them. I love having bookshelves full of wonderful books in the house, but the library is an amazing tool and an amazing community service. Even if you don't have a great library, you got some books you can check out. You don't need to spend money on books. So she really needed to look at why she wanted to buy all these books and why she felt she needed to own them. And she needed to understand that it was okay to not spend money on them. It wasn't something that was shameful, that she had to actually go to the library and borrow it for free. If you're an emotional spender and a recreational shopper, you really have got to set some limits for yourself. You could switch to the cash envelope system. So when you don't have enough cash, you're not spending. You're not putting things on credit that you can't afford to pay for outright. Or you set yourself the 2-day rule. When you see something you like, don't buy it. Go home and think about it for 2 days. Once you're away from that item, you really might not think it's worth going back to the store and getting it. The appeal is gone. The impulse is gone. If you still want it after 2 days, then you can think about getting it if you can afford it. You could also have a rule that you set a limit. And if you're going to buy anything above that limit, you have to discuss it with your spouse. You kind of have to both agree. If you're spending more than $40 on anything, you need the other one's approval. You need somebody else to say, yes, I agree. This is something we need. This is not just a luxury want. This is a need. Hi, Frugal Daddy.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. I'm cutting up watermelon.
Yes, I see. And I heard you talking to yourself in the kitchen. And I thought,
She's talking to herself again.
Yeah.
That's normal. Did you want to say anything about the emotional aspect of spending and money?
I did hear you say something about discussing it with your spouse.
I did just say that.
Yeah, and it made me think of how many times...
You've bought things and not told me? And then I have a fit later?
No, besides that,
Yeah,
is how many times I've seen people, women and men, because I've seen it on both, saying, I'll put it in my trunk. I don't want my spouse to see it.
Yeah.
Or when I go out to our trunk and it's loaded full of stuff, and I say,
that was necessary stuff. Toys R Us was going out of business, and I took advantage of some great sales to get the girls birthday and Christmas presents for this year and next year, plus presents for other kids going to birthday parties. So that's what was in our trunk that I bought.
And yes, it wasn't anything, you weren't hiding it also, you just didn't bring it in.
I wasn't hiding it. I wasn't hiding it from him, I was hiding it from the kids.
My point was that you did it, but you did it wisely, and you did it when you could afford it.
Yes.
And you did it for a purpose. It wasn't just that high of shopping.
Yeah, it wasn't just on impulse, it was planned, strategic.
We used to call it retail therapy.
Everybody calls it retail therapy, but it's not therapeutic. You cannot go shopping. There's no therapy there. I want to tell you about my mother, because here is a perfect example of someone who overshops, who's addicted to shopping, and who spends very emotionally. And I believe my mother's issue is she's an incredibly generous person, and it worked very well for me as a child because I was the recipient of all the generosity. But I think giving a material thing as a gift is my mother's way of showing that she loves somebody. And she really doesn't know any other way. So like I said, when I was a kid, that was great because I was getting new Barbie dolls, and I was very into crafts, so she was always buying me different kits for little crafty things I could do, or if I wanted to knit a sweater, she'd, go out with me and buy $80 worth of really nice wool so I could knit a sweater for my dad, whatever it was. It's lovely to give gifts, but there's something wrong if that's your only way of showing people you love them, and plus if you want people to like you, so it's almost like you're buying their friendship, that's kind of messed up too. That's not really going to work. Alright, so that's the basic message. You're on the right track, you're getting your debt down, you're saving money, you know where your money's going now, but if you want to be successful in the long term, you've got to understand the emotions behind your spending and how to get your emotional needs met without dropping a lot of cash and without cluttering up your home with a lot of material possessions that are not going to fulfill any emotional need at all. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.